Thank you, Brother Chong. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Peace be upon all you. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, to the inaugural opening session of the IBED Conference 2022. As shared by Brother Chong, we will be having the inaugural opening address by Venerable Geshe Dorji Damdul, representative of the Chief Guest of His Holiness Dalai Lama, very shortly. While waiting for him to join us, we would like to take this opportunity to invite some of our distinguished guests and participants who are coming from diverse backgrounds of faith, expertises, and also geography to share their views and thoughts on the theme that is being discussed today. And first, I don't want to delay. I would like to invite the Archbishop of Kuala Lumpur, the Most Reverend Archbishop Julian Leo, to unmute his microphone and share his view, particularly on the Christianity perspective on protection of the environment. Please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning to all of you. Perhaps different time zones in different parts of the world. I'm very privileged to be here. I'm the Archbishop, the Catholic Bishop of Kuala Lumpur, and privileged to just share a little bit on the Christian view of care for the environment. I think it's also in our Bible, in our scriptures. In Genesis, God made the heavens and the earth, and everything is good. Humans are commanded to care for God's creation. In Leviticus also, the land itself must be given a rest and not abused. Deuteronomy, all of heaven and earth belong to the Lord. And also the Psalms speak about all the earth, the world, and all that it contains belongs to God. So, my dear friends, I think most of our scriptures also speaks about caring for the environment. I'd just like to touch, I know I've only got 2 minutes, that Pope Francis, in his encyclical Laudato Si, which is on the environment, praise be to you, O Lord. He has set out, I think, quite extensively. I was hearing just now, not just theological, cultural, ethical, moral principles, but practical things that we as humanity can do. So basically, an ecological conversion is needed. And what does this mean? It's a transformation of the heart and mind towards a greater love of God, of one another, and of creation. And this process of acknowledging our contribution to the social and ecological crisis that we are in, and acting in ways to nurture this communion, that is by healing and renewing our common home, our only home. Thank you for this opportunity to share. God bless you.
Thank you so much, Reverend Archbishop Julian. And next, may I invite Ms. Tina Gill. So it's interesting because Ms. Tina Gill is an independent filmmaker and journalist based in New Delhi, India, with an academic background in gender development studies, and she had conducted quite a number of interesting documentaries, and one of it is about independency. So I guess probably it will be it's our honor to invite you, Ms. Tina, to share your thoughts on this, on your insight on this topic. Please unmute your mic and floor is yours.
Thank you. Yes, I'm a filmmaker, and to me the theme of interbeing actually has been very central more recently in my work, because I feel more than ever before that without an understanding of how the human beings and how human as the humans as a species, because actually we are another form of species on this planet, and until we understand how deeply we are connected to all other sentient and non-sentient beings, there's no way, I feel, in which we can actually address the deep problems which face us today on this planet, and which face our planet and all life on this earth. I feel that actually I wanted very much the film to also look through poetry. It's not actually a documentary, but to communicate in ways which are different so that we can actually come across to other people and share with them what I feel is right now such an important issue. Scientists, as we have been discussing in the last session, have also been allowing us more recently to understand issues which we have never been able to understand before. Science has caused many problems in the past, but on the other hand, more recently, it's allowed us to look more deeply at aspects of this earth which few of us knew so much about. The fact that trees actually communicate with each other, that trees support each other, and they help the weakest to survive. The fact that fungi are able to solve complex problems without a brain and can connect their perception with action without having a specific place in which to do this. Plants also do this, and unlike animals which have one brain, they have numerous decision-making paths. But our narrow, cerebrocentric frameworks have not allowed us to understand this. Through the film, I also want to explore the spiritual traditions that push our boundaries. Buddhism, interbeing, is extremely central to all Buddhist thought and philosophy. Sufism, Advaita, which stems from Vedanta in Hinduism, all of these deeply look at how we are not separate from the humans, from other species on this planet. In this way, we understand also and challenge our concepts of birth and death, and our inability to understand that, like other forms of life, we depend on water, on the air, the earth, the minerals, and the sun to survive. All other forms of life on this planet, like us, are deeply connected to these elements. Without them, we cannot be, and without us, they cannot be. So we need to open our minds to actually unlearn what we have learned through our educational systems, through our societies, in order to form a new way of learning and see how deeply we are part of the natural world. So I'm hoping that I will be able to do this through this film on interbeing. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Nagil, for your interest and support in joining this conference, despite of being quite an early from New Delhi. Thank you so much for your view. And next, I would like to invite the Associate Professor Kamaonia to get a view and probably look into the influence of religion in society and how it can help in promotion of the protection of the environment. Over to you, Prof. Dr. Kamaonia.
Thank you very much, everybody. Can you hear me? Am I heard? Yes. Because, okay, thank you. It's been very interesting, this contributions, and I follow it seriously, although I was able to come in a little bit late, but managed to follow up most of the previous discussions. Since I have only 2 minutes or more or less, I'll go straight to what was assigned to me, a title. The title was The Influence of Religion in Society and How It Can Help in Promotion of the Protection of the Environment. Of course, this is fundamental to our whole discussion, and it presupposes, the title presupposes that religion has a role in society, that religion and society is intertwined in a way. I will only bring up 2 aspects in this discussion for these 2 minutes. One is the mission of the prophets and the founders of religion, and then the second point is on the definition of existence. At the level of the mission of the prophets, if you look into history, the coming of the prophets, the founders of religion, the teachers, each religion has its own understanding of who brought the religion. They came at that fundamental time in human history where humanity was in deep crisis. A lot of injustice was going on, and they were sort of commissioned to address the issue of humanity. So they set about to repair, to reset humanity into a new direction that can help to make life better for one and all. And at that point of time, it was about the humanity aspect. But it is also covering the non-human aspect as well. So these prophets, founders of religion, teachers, they started with the person. And this is called the transformation of the individuals. And what has been discussed before is it is promotion of the individual. Conversion took place. And that's what we call convert. The person transformed from what he was to be another person after he accepted the system. And that means the conversion of the heart, the conversion of the mind, the conversion of personality, the conversion of worldview, direction, the conversion of value system towards a new one that was formed. The prophets, the founders, they were lonely people in the beginning. And it was a tough struggle. So if they had the share of the difficulties, let's not hope that we didn't have it an easy time either. But they developed this group of people who was able to emulate that type of personality that was ready to transform society. They translated the transformation into the reformation of society. So they came out value systems, thought patterns, right and wrong, good and right, as emulated by the teachings of the prophets, and as they have personalized it into their life and they translated it into society. And so a new society was transformed with new value systems, with new vision and mission, and so the humanity of that time was repaired. And this new humanity eventually developed into civilization. So we have in the past, almost all the civilizations in the past was more or less based on some kind of religious background or spiritual background. So the civilizations of the past had a soul. Unfortunately, as I see it, personally I see it, our contemporary civilization, when we step into this modern age and we marginalize religion, our civilization is what I call a soulless civilization. A civilization without soul. And by soul, it includes the heart, what Dr. Azizan had been talking and what our representatives from the students. So we have lost it in that point. So we bring transformation, conversion of the individual, the intrapersonal aspect transformation into the interpersonal aspect of transformation, repairing humanity, and then we move onwards. So that includes the environment. But the second point I want to raise is the definition. All religions give definitions of what a human being is, of what existence is. Basically, it's about body, mind, and soul. And in Buddhism, they have the aggregates, skandhas, or the khandhas, defining humanity. Religions explain who a human being is. And from there, you can become to act as a human being. But modern civilization, that's not give emphasize. Even in education, I used to raise this in international conference. What is education and for whom is education? If it is for human beings, then we have to come to the point of understanding what is a human being. If we don't understand what a human being is, how can you devise educational system that will fit into the human being? Okay, so then definitions are given by religion. Now, other than the definition of what and who a human being is, religion also defines what existence is. In the context of existence, almost all religions I should say, and that's because I overlook certain, talk about the interrelatedness of existences.
Thank you. Thank you, Prof. Unfortunately, yeah.
Is time up?
Yeah.
Okay, let me
Yes.
Let me just point this out. This is important. This interrelatedness and responsibility is what encapsulated by religion. So we have in the understanding of what religion is. We have lost the holistic understanding of religion, and we have made it very ritualistic and personalized. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Prof. Dr. Kamania, for that insight, and of course, holistic understanding of the religion is something that would be one of our solution at the end of the conference. Next, we have heard from the Christianity part and from the Muslims, but now may I invite Madam Gauri Tanggaya from Malaysia Hingam to please unmute your microphone and kindly share the relationship between Hinduism and environment and the importance of protecting it. Madam Gauri?
Vanakkam.
Yep. Over to you.
Yes, can everyone hear me? Okay, dear all, good greetings to everyone. First of all, thank you for the opportunity to say a few words in this esteemed conference. Let me share a few words on the relationship between Hinduism and environment and the importance of protecting it from the Hinduism perspective. One of our teachings saying, the earth is our mother and we are all the children. So ancient religious Hindu texts, especially the Rig Veda, particularly Upanishads, explains the deep connections between human beings and the environment. Nature is an integral part of Hinduism and it serves as a bridge between humans and the environment. Yeah. By using rituals to mark the rhythm of the season changes, to express gratitude for a bountiful harvest, and pray to keep away destructive natural forces, right? All religions, as we have heard from morning, teach that humans are the caretakers of this planet Earth. So let me quickly quote 10 Hindu environmental teachings. The Earth is seen as a manifestation of the goddess and must be treated with respect. Second, the 5 elements, space, air, fire, water, and earth are the foundations of an interconnected web of life. The Dharma, often translated as duty in Hinduism, and our responsibility.
We lost you, Ms. Gauri. We lost you for a while. Can you try to speak again?
Oh,
can you unmute? Yeah. Okay, yeah. You're back now, yeah.
Right. All right, I just continue, right? I said just now, Dharma, often translated as our duty, can be interpreted to include our responsibility to care and protect the earth. Simple living is a model for development of sustainable economies. Our treatment of nature directly affects our karma. Our behavior towards the environment has karmic consequences. The earth, the Mother Earth, Devi, is a goddess and our mother and deserves our devotion and protection. Hinduism, tantric and yogic traditions affirm the sacredness of material reality and contain the teachings and practice to unite people with divine energy. Belief in reincarnation supports a sense of interconnectedness of all creations. Non-violence, the ahimsa, is the greatest dharma. Sannyasa represents a path to liberation and it's good for earth. As what Venerable Professor Dhamajodi explained about meditation. So all religions speak the same language when it comes to environment. And very good sharing was done in the morning by the speakers as well as all those who shared their concerns. And it is now time to put these things to work. As someone said, how do we bring it to the people? How all religions in our country can work together, effort to bring the awareness about how do we protect the nature, the religion, through the religious perspective. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Madam Gauri, for that shares on the perspective of Hinduism, and of course, it's great to know that other religions basically, have the same values of like Islam and Buddhism when it comes to protection of the environment. And now, if I may invite Venerable Singkan, who can please share, expand further on the relationship between environment diseases from the Buddhist perspective, that's what shared by the previous speakers, particularly from the scientific perspective. But now we would like to listen more about the Buddhist perspective on such link between environment and diseases. Please, over to you, Venerable Singkan.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Good morning to everybody. Now, we know that environment, that means our surrounding, things affects the human health. And we also know that environmentally, we are facing issues like pollution, global warming, waste disposal, deforestation, and other what I call diseases that due to environment. So in Buddhism, as the professor has mentioned, a dependent coexistence, which is one of the basic doctrine of Buddhism, where everything is interrelated. Now, all beings and all phenomena, including the Mother Earth, we are interconnected. As mentioned earlier, if we are sick, the earth is sick. If the earth is sick, we will be sick. So, and another basic doctrine of Buddhism is the law of karma, where it means the intentional good and evil actions. Yeah, if we are immoral, or we do something bad, or we destroy the Mother Earth, the same effect will come to us. What we do, it will come to us, whether it's good or bad. So these two doctrinal basic doctrine of Buddhism, which is very important. Now we come back to, with a very common values to, say, human being or religion. That is compassion and loving kindness. Compassion means when you see somebody suffering, you would like to help, like to go forth and help to ease suffering. The same thing. We know the earth. We know that the Mother Earth is been hurt or destroyed. That's why there are so many environmental issues happening, like that we say global warming, pollution to water, air, which also affect human health. So compassion and loving kindness, to love the earth, love the Mother Earth, to love everyone, you see, which is very common. Is very common to all religions. And I think these two values, if we put into practice, besides knowing the theoretical part or knowledge, scientific knowledge, religious knowledge, that is knowledge. But we still, the most important thing is how to apply it practically. Therefore, I would advise, people to develop compassion and loving kindness to sentient beings and to the earth and to the Mother Earth. Starts from the individual. And of course, everyone is responsible to protect the world, including, as we said, religion, NGOs, the government, institutes. So thank you. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Venerable Singkan, for that insightful on this topic. And then, unfortunately, due to the time, we have actually lined up quite a number of other great participants who can join us to share more about the practical aspect of it, as we have heard the conceptual concept of the protection environment. But we have to shorten it up. I will then now invite the last participant to share her thought. Ustazah Liana Rosli, who is the head of Harmony Center, who is also the first female leading the Interfaith Center in Singapore. So Ustazah Liana, please share, unmute yourself and share about Harmony Center, about the work, and also especially some of the activities that you have conducted related to environment, particularly with regards to interfaith approaches. Thank you. Over to you, Ustazah Liana Rosli. Unmute yourself. Tak dengar?
me right now?
Yes.
Okay, yes, okay. So good morning, everyone, respected scholars and esteemed leaders. I'm very honored that I'm able to stand on the shoulders of giants today. So I am Sazaliana. I'm currently the head of Harmony Center. So Harmony Center is a key initiative, one of the key initiatives under the Islamic Religious Council of Singapore. That majority of the work that we do is to look at the welfare of the Muslims community. But for the Harmony Center in particularly, we oversee the initiatives that we done both for the Muslims community and also the other faith communities. So we do have a physical center that's actually located in a mosque where we help to create awareness on the true teachings of Islam and also about how the different religions in Singapore are able to bridge our relationship with peace and harmony. We've existed since 2006 and we have more than 75,000 people coming to the center. One thing that I'm really grateful of course, we've run various kinds of programs in terms of trainings for grassroots leaders, for youth leaders, for the community. We also conducted programs for people to have a better understanding on the interfaith relationships across all faith. But I would like to just focus in particular about our initiatives with regards to how do we promote this awareness and preserving our environment, speaking on the practical aspect. So for us, we try to adopt this, what we call as the abundance mentality. We work in a sense that we work collectively with other faith organizations, ground-up initiatives, and also worshipping places. So for example, especially in the time of Ramadan, we work together with the ground-up initiatives to create a campaign to ensure that Muslims in particular, when you perform your prayer, and try to not commit like a water wastage when we perform ablutions, for example. This is one example that we done. And when we do our iftar, the breaking of fast in a mosque, because it is normalized, it is a normalized culture in Singapore that there are several mosques who extended these services of breaking of fast to also for people of other faith communities, because they would like to observe what is it like to experience having this fasting with Muslims. And in presenting, in doing such programs, we also ensure that we use, say, biodegradable materials, and also to ensure that we do not have food wastage. We also conduct hackathon programs for youth leaders. And one of the topics that we address is actually on the environment. And I remember one of the topics that was raised is on the overconsumption of seafood and how does the different faith youths can come together and think about solutions in doing this. But lastly, one thing that I would like to highlight, beyond the practical and action aspect, I'm also happy to share, and I also believe that is something very in line to the topic of the conference today, that we have worked very closely with the Singapore Buddhist Federation to publish a publication called The Human Suffering, Spiritual Renewal and Common Action. It's a collaborative effort between the Muslims and Buddhist relations in Singapore. And among the topic that we highlighted is actually on the issue of environment, stewardship, and also consumerism within the society. And I thought, let me just quote a phrase from the publication itself, which I think it is very, it sits perfectly with the theme of today as we talk about the idea of science and ecology and the eco dialogue between Muslims and Buddhist relation. Science delineates what is likely to happen as humans increasingly dominate Earth systems. But data are not a prescription. It is values, including religious views, that shape responses, both personal and societal. And I thought that was one of some of the favorite phrases that I have in this publication. And this is just a simple sharing that I have with you. But of course, I would love to have this open opportunity for an offline networking with everyone here. And thank you so much for the opportunity, Adli.
Thank you so much, Ustazah Lena Rosli. And with that, we have come to the end of this pre-event function. On behalf of the organizers, we'd like to thank all the participants who have agreed to speak and share their thoughts earlier. And we also, at the same time, apologize for those who have invited but unfortunately not able to have you speaking at this point. But in any case, We are delighted and happy to have all of you to stay until the end of the conference, and so that we can continue of exchanging of views on this topic. And before proceeding with the inaugural session, kindly ensure that I'd like to remind you to ensure that your microphone is muted during this whole session. And I now have the pleasure of introducing the moderator for this inaugural opening address, Dr. Alwani Ghazali. Dr. Alwani Ghazali is a senior lecturer at the Department of Aqidah and Islamic Thought, Academy of Islamic Studies, University of Malaya. She is also the Deputy Director for University Malaya Center for Civilizational Dialogue, and she studied at the International Islamic University Malaysia for her bachelor and master degrees in comparative religion, and the University of Melbourne, Australia for PhD on Dialogue of Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, peace be upon him. And without further ado, I now hand over to Dr. Alwani Ghazali to start this opening address inaugural session. Over to you, Dr. Alwani.
Thank you, Mr. Adli Zakwan. We are now waiting for Venerable Geshe Dorji Damdul to arrive. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and good day, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the inaugural session for the International Conference on Islam Buddhism Eco Dialogue. Good morning, Venerable Geshe Dorji Damdul, Emeritus Professor Datuk Dr. Osman Bakar, ladies and gentlemen. To begin, let me introduce you to the speakers of all the sessions in IBED Conference. They are, number one, Dr. Reza Shah Kazmi, Muslim author and lecturer in the fields of comparative religion, Islamic spirituality and Quranic studies UK. Second, Professor Datuk Dr. Azizan Baharudin, Director, Center for Civilizational Dialogue, University Malaya, Malaysia. Third, Venerable Dr. KL Dhamajoti from Malaysian Buddhist monk, Chair Professor at School of Philosophy, Renmin University, China, and Director of the Buddha Dharma Center of Hong Kong. Fourth, Emeritus Professor Datuk Dr. Osman Bakar, holder of Al-Ghazali Chair of Epistemology and Civilizational Studies and Renewal, International Institute of Islamic Thought and Civilization, ISTAC-IIUM, Malaysia. Fifth, Venerable Dr. Dhammananda Abbas, Songdhamma Kalyani Monastery, Thailand. Sixth, Mr. Syed Jamaluddin and Ms. Fatima Ahmad. Mr. Syed Jamaluddin is the President of International Students of Islamic Psychology, Sweden. Seventh, Venerable Abbot Ken Rinpoche Tashi Sering, Abbot Serame Monastery, India. Eighth, Professor Dr. Nur Faridah Abdul Manaf, former Deputy Director of International Islamic University of Malaysia. Ninth, Dr. David Loy, Professor of Buddhist and Comparative Philosophy, USA. 10th, Mr. Faisal Aziz, President of Muslim Youth Movement, ABI, Malaysia. 11th, Assistant Professor Venerable Dr. Karma Tashi Chodron, Deputy Education Director, Vajrayana Buddhist Council of Malaysia, and Assistant Professor at the University of Nottingham, Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. Ladies and gentlemen, this conference is co-organized by many parties, with the key organizers that I will be announcing, which I begin with the three names of speakers previously mentioned. First, Emeritus Professor Datuk Dr. Osman Bakar. Second, Mr. Syed Jamaluddin. Third, Mr. Faisal Aziz. The rest of the key organizers are: fourth, Mr. Benny Liao, Buddhist author and Chief Editor of Buddhist magazine, Eastern Horizon, Malaysia. Fifth, Mr. Tan Leng Huat, former President of Theravada Buddhist Council of Malaysia. Sixth, Mr. K.C. Liu, President of Tibetan Buddhist Council, Tibetan Buddhist Cultural Center, Malaysia. And last but not least, Mr. Pak Chi Han, former president of Vajrayana Buddhist Council of Malaysia. Allow me also to introduce our moderators for all the sessions in the conference. They are first, Mr. Yusaimi Yusof. Second, Datuk Dr. Goh Pek Pin. Third, Puan Suhaila Muhammad. Fourth, Brother Tan Leng Huat. Fifth, Brother Wilson Ang. And number 6, Brother Bani Liao. Ladies and gentlemen, the program continues with an introductory remark for IBED Conference by Emeritus Professor Datuk Dr. Osman Bakar. Before he delivers a speech, please allow me to introduce his good self. Osman Bakar, a doctorate in Islamic philosophy from Temple University, Philadelphia, USA, is currently the holder of Al-Ghazali Chair of Epistemology and Civilizational Studies and Renewal at ISTAC-IIUM. He is also an Emeritus Professor in Philosophy of Science at University of Malaya. He was formerly the Distinguished Professor and Director of Sultan Umar Ali Saifuddin Center for Islamic Studies, SOASIS, University Brunei Darussalam. Professor Osman also formerly held the Malaysia Chair of Islam in Southeast Asia at the Prince Talal Al-Walid Center for Muslim-Christian Understanding, Georgetown University, Washington, D.C., and was a Deputy Vice Chancellor, Academic and Research at University Malaya. Professor Osman is an author and editor of 40 books and more than 300 articles on various aspects of Islamic thought and civilization, particularly in Islamic science and philosophy, in which he is a leading authority. His most well-known books are Classification of Knowledge in Islam, 1992, and Tawheed and Science, 1992. His latest books are titled Al-Farabi, Life, Works and Significance, 2018, and Colonialism in the Malay Archipelago, Civilizational Encounters, 2020. He has been named among the 500 most influential Muslims in the world since 2009. He was made a Datuk with a spelling O apostrophe in 1999 and 1994 by the Sultan of Pahang, and a Datuk, spelling UK in the end, by the King in 2000. 3 of his works that are most relevant to this conference are, first, the books entitled Environmental Wisdom for Planet Earth, the Islamic Heritage. Second book, Quranic Pictures of the Universe. And number 3, an article entitled Influence of Islamic Science on Medieval Christian Conceptions of Nature. Without further ado, I would like to welcome Emeritus Professor Dr. Osman Bakar to deliver his introductory remark. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome. The floor is yours, Datuk. Please unmute.
Thank you very much, Dr. Alwani. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Let me greet all of you wherever you may be with the traditional greeting of Islam, Assalamu alaikum, peace be to you. On behalf of the co-organizers of the Islam Buddhism Eco Dialogue Conference, in short, IBED Conference, I would like to warmly welcome all speakers and participants to this historic online conference on an extremely important issue that the global human community is currently facing, namely the ecological crisis. In particular, a special welcome to our 2 keynote speakers. They are Venerable Geshe Dorji Damdul and Dr. Reza Shah Kazemi. We regret very much that at the last minute, His Holiness has to withdraw his participation in the conference as the keynote speaker at this inaugural session this morning. We are all actually we're looking forward to his presence, to his address, looking forward to the IBED conference, but the COVID lockdown in Dharamsala, India, prevented him from delivering his keynote speech. Nonetheless, we are happy that His Holiness is kind enough to send his representative in the person of Geshe Dorji Damdul to address this inaugural session. Some of us know Geshe Dorji quite well. He's a young Buddhist scholar, but I know he's more than qualified to speak on the subject of the environment and ecology from the Buddhist perspective, for which he seems to have a great passion. I also had the pleasure of knowing Dr. Reza Shah Kazemi. He's a good old friend. I know him as one of the best contemporary scholars of Islamic spirituality, who is also at ease with the topic of Islam and ecology. He is widely known for his authoritative work on comparative studies of Islam and Buddhism. He will deliver his keynote address at the closing session of the conference tomorrow. We thank him for kindly accepting our invitation to address this conference as the second keynote speaker. I'm delighted to be part of this organizing team of the conference. We think we have chosen a very good theme for the conference. Let me say a few words about the significance of the theme, which is the application of religion and science to ecology and sustainability perspectives of Islam and Buddhism. In our view, the theme is very relevant to the present condition of the planet Earth, which we regard as our only home. Our planet Earth is currently in a state of ecological crisis, with grave implications for the future of humanity. The crisis is getting more serious, not less, more serious than ever. So does science tell us, despite the fact that more and more people now realize that the future of all living species on our planet Earth, on which human life itself depends, is at stake. Scholars and scientists have been talking about the need to address this global crisis for more than half a century. But somehow there seems to be a progressive deterioration in the quality of the environment and the ecological health of the planetary body of our Earth. The main reason is, I think, because people who are mainly responsible for the crisis do not want to listen to science. And they also do not want to listen to religion. And they also, they only want to listen to the whispers of their greed for more wealth and power through the exploitation of natural resources that are fast depleting. One of the main reasons why we have chosen the theme is that we would like to contribute to the popularization of the idea that religion and science should work together in addressing and overcoming the present ecological crisis. In particular, this means that religious leaders and activists and scholars of religion should work hand in hand with scientists or the scientific community in overcoming the ecological crisis. Although there's been such collaboration before, here and there in our contemporary world, it has been confined to a few people. For too long, people mostly listen to the voice of science when it comes to the issue of environmental and ecological crisis. By all means, let us continue to listen to the voice of science, because when it comes to monitoring the ecological health of our planet, its voice is the most reliable. But for God's sake, let us also listen to the voice of religion. It is our belief that religion has a lot of things to say about ecology and the environment of planet Earth. And you'll be listening to that in these 2 days. Now, let us be clear on the issue of ecological crisis. While it is very clear that ecology is a biophysical issue and thus to be addressed by science, it is no less clear, especially to religious scholars and authorities, that ecology is also a spiritual and moral issue, and thus to be addressed by religion. In short, the ecological crisis has both a biophysical and human dimension, which therefore requires the attention of both science and religion. Moreover, it is obvious to us that the biophysical and human dimensions of ecology interact with each other. The nature and extent of the interaction depends on the kind of attitudes we humans have towards nature and on the kind of relationship we choose to have with the natural world. There's a stark difference between the relationship between man and nature in the pre-modern period and the corresponding relationship in the modern and contemporary period. The present ecological crisis has a lot to do with the kind of relationship that modern man has pursued with nature. The IBED Conference would like to explore and understand how spirituality, as the core of religion, can play its constructive role in addressing the crisis in question. Some people have raised the issue of how can religions be an effective united front in responding to the ecological crisis when their respective fundamental teachings are so different from each other. Well, this conference seeks to show otherwise, that notwithstanding differences between religions, there are common grounds between them that would enable their respective followers to sit down together and discuss the problems of humanity, not just confined to ecology and environment. We, the organizers, think that the followers of different religions would be even more at ease when dealing with environmental and ecological issues. Another significance of the IBED Conference, the theme, is that we can show to the whole world that Muslims and Buddhists and other religions can sit down to discuss together substantive issues of ecology and sustainability from the perspective of their respective religion. We hope to strengthen our common position on issues of ecology and sustainability. The conference is also attended by followers of our religion. This augurs well for the future of multi-faith and multicultural approaches to the restoration of the ecological health of the planet Earth. Let me say a few words about the significance of this conference for the current initiative and goals of sustainable development. We are all aware of the 17 Sustainable Development Goals, SDGs, adopted by the United Nations. Various institutions and organizations all over the world are pursuing the goals in their own ways, including in Malaysia. I would like to mention here the especially energetic program currently pursued by IIUM under the leadership of its rector, Tan Sri Zulkifli Abdul Razak, in relation to the 17 SDGs. However, being an Islamic university, IIUM is concerned about the lack of spirituality in the content of the goals. To address this rather obvious shortcoming, IIUM added spirituality and sustainability as its 18th SDG. Of course, IIUM's emphasis is on spirituality and sustainability from the Islamic perspective. However, that does not rule out a comparative religious perspective or approach to this particular issue. As a matter of fact, I think this is precisely what we are doing at this conference. We are all comparing, in particular, Islamic and Buddhist notes on the issue of sustainability, among others. It is our sincere hope that this conference will open up new spaces for exploring our commonalities on issues of global significance and thus strengthening our mutual understanding. It is also our sincere hope that this conference will be greeted with enthusiasm by both Muslims and Buddhists the world over. It is also our hope that in the near future, IBED will be able to organize interfaith dialogues that will include members of the other faiths. Let me conclude my introductory remarks at this inaugural session by emphasizing that the IBED conference is a historic one. Since this is the first time that Muslims and Buddhists have worked together on a big scale in organizing an international conference on the extremely important subject of ecology and sustainability of planet Earth. This initiative is highly significant one, since Muslims and Buddhists constitute the two biggest religious groups not only in Malaysia, but also in our regional community, ASEAN. Thank you to everyone who made this conference possible, the organizers from various organizations, the speakers, the participants. Congratulations once again, and have a successful conference. Assalamu alaikum. Peace be to you.
Thank you very much, Emeritus Professor Datuk Dr. Osman, for the wonderful introduction for the conference. Ladies and gentlemen, due to the inevitable circumstance at His Holiness office, which had to be closed recently, His Holiness is therefore represented by Venerable Geshe Dorji Damdul for the conference inaugural session. Before he delivers the speech, allow me to introduce Venerable Geshe Dorji Damdul. Venerable Geshe Dorji Damdul is the Director of Tibet House, Cultural Center of His Holiness the Dalai Lama in New Delhi. After 15 years of study in Buddhist philosophy, he completed his Geshe Larampa degree, which is equivalent to PhD, in 2002 from the Drapung Losling Monastic University, and completed also a year of tantric studies at the Gyutmet Tantric College. In 2003, he was a visiting fellow at Girton College in Cambridge University, and in 2005, he was appointed as the official translator of His Holiness the Dalai Lama. In 2004 to 2005, he also served as the philosophy lecturer for the Emory University's study abroad program in Dharamsala. In 2008, the Office of His Holiness assigned him to work in the US on His Holiness the Dalai Lama's book, Emotional Awareness, that was co-authored by the world-renowned psychologist Paul Ekman of the University of California Medical School. He also worked on His Holiness book, Beyond Religion, and the series of Art of Happiness books, which were written jointly by His Holiness and Professor Howard Cutler. He continues to be involved in the critical editing work for books authored by His Holiness and has written a number of important papers for national and international conferences on topics such as the paradox of brain and mind. Geshe Dorji Damdul has been a visiting fellow in Delhi University for the departments of philosophy, psychology, and Buddhist studies since 2009 and 2008. In 2011, Indira Gandhi National Open University recruited him as one of the chief experts to design the syllabi for BA and MA courses on the Tibetan studies. In 2016, Tibet House in Delhi launched a 4-year international Nalanda master's course in Buddhist philosophy, a course developed by Geshe Dorji Damdul in line with the wishes of His Holiness, in line with the wishes of His Holiness the Dalai Lama. With great exposure to modern science, he has a unique ability to explain the profound concepts of Buddhist philosophy in a way that is comprehensible to Western and Eastern audiences alike. He has hundreds of devoted students around the world, and he frequently visits different countries to teach Buddhism and to participate in dialogues with scientists and academics. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Venerable Geshe Dorji Damdul. Venerable, the floor is yours. Please unmute your mic. Thank you.
Distinguished guests, scholars, brothers and sisters, this is to express my heartfelt thanks to the organizers of the International Conference on the application of religion and science to ecology and sustainability, perspectives from Islam and Buddhism. Many of you might be wondering as to how this conference came into being. It was back in 2019 that when I was in Malaysia, my friends, Brother Peck and Brother Casey Liu, two of them, told me that, okay, today you're going to meet a very renowned Islamic scholar and a professor. And I was so happy. And eventually I met Professor Osman Bagarji and Datuk. And meeting with him, having some dialogue, and shared my thoughts about His Holiness, His Holiness's view of the world, how the world should come together. And he was so excited, and I shared with him the universal ethics His Holiness is advocating to be introduced in the modern education system. And Professor Osman Bakar, he instantly jumped to the idea that I and my institute would host this first meeting, first conference between the Islamic scholars and the Buddhist scholars to speak on this universal ethics as envisioned by His Holiness the Dalai Lama. So it was extremely beautiful meeting and very fortunate indeed, a great honor for me that I eventually ended up in his institute, where he so kindly brought his colleagues, professors, and we had exchanges. After that, during the tea time, there was a lady professor, a Muslim lady professor with a hijab, and she asked if I can take a photograph with you. And she was literally crying. I said, yeah, of course. And she said that, I want to show this photograph to my daughter. She would be so happy. Love of the mother for her daughter is so beautiful. And then Professor Osman himself said that his daughter is one of the greatest fans of His Holiness the Dalai Lama. So this is how we built such a rapport, such a friendship. And I really appreciate the openness and the love that Professor Osman exuded all along. So this is what culminated in this conference. So of course, yes, it is indeed a greatly historic and extremely meaningful coming together of two civilizations, coming together for the same and common effort for ecology. So with this in mind, I'd like to wholeheartedly thank all the organizers since its inception of the planning of the conference. First of all, congratulate them for all their hard works. So here, this historic event brings Muslim and Buddhist brothers and sisters from all over the world on the same stage in the spirit of brotherhood and sisterhood. They're two towards a common effort to create broader awareness and thus take care of the ecology for the good of today's and the future generations. Just as we, the people of the world, gathered here today, we're all anticipating to see His Holiness the Dalai Lama with us for this conference. As Professor Osman so rightly indicated, His Holiness also considers this dialogue as an extremely important event for several reasons. Bringing harmony between the human beings and the environment, which is only possible through collective efforts, which in turn is feasible only through developing harmony among the human beings and among the different religions. Why ecology is so important? From how the people and countries actively destroy the environment in all sorts of forms, like heavy deforestation and the Amazon rainforest fires, nuclear proliferation, and so forth, people are given the impression that ecology is the least important of all. This is all our naivety. COVID-19 reminded us that our well-being is the most important thing. The money and the wealth for which we are destroying the environment is not the end, but not to be forgotten that they're at the most intended as the means to the end. What is the end? The end is the well-being of the citizens of the world as visibly taught to us by the COVID-19. Whole world has to remain locked down. Nations have to lose and sacrifice billions of dollars, sacrifice the education of their children in schools, colleges, and universities. This is well highlighted in the 17 SDG enumerated by UNO, as indicated by Professor Osman, more precisely in the first 3 points: no poverty, good health, no hunger, and well-being. From the space, if you look at the various celestial objects, there's only one planet which starkly stands out as the most beautiful one, exuding blue hues. What is that? It's the planet Earth, our home. If you lose it, the whole inhabitants will die, and there's no other planet for us to escape to. This is well reflected in the book, Our Only Home, by His Holiness the Dalai Lama, when he said, "Yesterday, our beautiful blue planet was still a natural paradise in many areas. Today, it is already withered in many places, and tomorrow, it will be uninhabitable in many regions if we just carry on as before." He also said in the foreword to the book, Ecological Responsibility, a dialogue with Buddhism, published by Tibet House, Delhi, 1997. Resolving the environmental crisis is not just a question of the ethics, but a question of a survival. The natural environment is very important, not only for those of us alive now, but also for the future generations. If we exploit it in extreme ways, even though we may get money or other benefits from it now, in the long run, we ourselves and future generations will suffer. The Buddha exhorted, all phenomena of pleasant and unpleasant nature arise from the respective causes. It is pertinent to study and identify the causes of the ecological crisis. Some of the causes of man-made environmental degradation are ozone depletion, excessive deforestation, greenhouse effect, water pollution, air pollution, nuclear waste dumping, excessive meat consumption, and so forth. The immediate cause of these is our attempt to feed our endless greed. This greed is because of ignorance, which fails to see the interdependent nature of the fragile planet Earth as a habitat and the human beings and animals as the inhabitants. Inhabitants will perish when the world as the habitat perishes. Let us look at how tsunami washes away everything: your house, your children, your family, your money, including your bank, however much money you have in the bank. They all are washed away like small mesh boxes being washed away by a flood. In the Buddhist texts, where the beings are oftentimes referred to as childlike, it's the child who throws stones to the glass house one takes shelter in, and to regret at the end over the loss of the shelter when one suffers from cold, rain, and so forth. Dr. Franz Alt said in the book, Our Only Home, a climate appeal to the world jointly written with His Holiness the Dalai Lama. Every day, we're emitting globally about 150 million tons of carbon dioxide. Every day, we're killing off about 150 animal and plant species. We're losing daily 50,000 tons of fertile soil. and deserts grow by about 80,000 hectares every day. Our greed for meat destroys rainforests. In 2019, hundreds of millions of Africans lived through the most terrible drought within living memory and are fearful of the next famine. The whole subcontinent is crying for water. His Holiness the Dalai Lama, on June 7, 1992, to the preliminary Earth Summit, Global Forum of the United Nations Conference on Environment Development, held in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. This blue planet of ours is a delightful habitat. Its life is our life, its future our future. Indeed, the earth acts like a mother to us all. Like children, we are dependent on her. In the face of such global problems as the greenhouse effect and depletion of the ozone layer, individual organizations and single nations are helpless. Unless we all work together, no solution can be found. Our Mother Earth is teaching us a lesson in universal responsibility. Where lies the solution? Looking at the 17 Sustainable Development Goals as highlighted by UNO. Number 6, clean water and sanitation. Number 7, affordable and clean energy. 11, sustainable cities and communities. 12, responsible consumption and production. 13, climate action. 14, life below water. 15, life on earth. We need collective efforts. On the international level, leaders play a great role. They are the ones to play a great role. For example, handling COVID is not what one nation can do. I was so impressed to hear Mr. Blinken, the Secretary of State of US, during the meeting we had on his first day of the visit to India, 2021 in Delhi, saying that no one nation can do anything to curb this virus. It should be a collective effort of all the countries. As individual citizens, also, we need to take responsibility in this effort. It was very inspiring to see His Holiness the Dalai Lama emphasizing a lot on preservation of ecology during his public teachings in Sarnath on 29th of December 1990, the place where the Buddha gave his first sermon. There, His Holiness the Dalai Lama distributed lots of fruit-bearing tree seeds, which he bought from the monetary part of his Nobel Peace Prize in 1989, thus inspiring all his followers and admirers to replenish the environment with love and care. His Holiness the Dalai Lama said, "Since I too have a responsibility in this matter, that is to work for the protection of the environment and to see that the present and the future generations of mankind can make use of refreshing shade and the fruits of trees, I bought these seeds of fruit-bearing trees with part of my Nobel Peace Prize money to be distributed now to people representing the different regions from all continents of the world." During the Kalachakra gathering, these seeds had been kept near the Kalachakra mandala for purification and blessings, since these include seeds of apricot, walnut, papaya, guava, etc., suitable for planting under varying geographical conditions. Experts in respective places should be consulted on the planting and care, and thus you all should see that my sincere aspiration is fulfilled. One distinctive yet very noble mindset that I noticed in the people who love and stand for the environment is that they will never engage in killing another human brother or sister. They care for life. If this altruistic compassion, which drives them to become a noble being as opposed to a selfish person, can be taught to the world leaders and the common people alike, the world is going to be a very different place, a place of worship for the present and the future generations. How can we teach this altruistic heart to the people? It always intrigues me to see that what His Holiness the Dalai Lama says resonates with that of what Einstein thought when Einstein said, "A human being is a part of the whole, called by us universe, a part limited in time and space. He or she experiences himself herself his or her thoughts and feelings as something separated from the rest, a kind of optical delusion of his consciousness. This delusion is a kind of prison for us, restricting us to our personal desires and affection for a few persons nearest to us. Our task must be to free ourselves from this prison by widening a circle of compassion to embrace all living creatures and the whole of nature in its beauty. Every time His Holiness gives public addresses within or outside India, experts come with the same question: Your Holiness, where are we as a world going wrong? That world crisis keeps increasing despite the great advancement in modern education. His Holiness, without second thought response, the well-being of the world is determined by the development of both the brain and heart. Unfortunately, the modern education is designed to develop only the brain and not the heart. Now is the high time that we introduce program for heart development as part of the modern education system. It has been one of the greatest efforts of His Holiness the Dalai Lama in this pursuit of introducing universal ethics, which eventually culminated into the launch of an extremely important and efficacious program, a gift and a legacy for the world known as social, emotional, ethical learning. In short, C-learning, as a great mission of His Holiness the Dalai Lama, undertaken by Emeritus University, Atlanta, Georgia, USA. Any institution or even the individuals can take the maximum benefit from this program. All materials are available for free. Even teacher trainings are given for free for institutions. This is also to bring it to your attention that many institutions from across the world have been receiving the benefit of this program. I pray that this program very soon will be adopted by UNO for the world at large. I'm confident that many future generations will reap the benefit to change the course of the world from darkness of ignorance and miseries to the light of happiness, equality, and breathing fresh air of compassion and harmony. Let me read a verse from the poem of His Holiness, which he wrote for ecology, and the end of the verse, which His Holiness always recite for the joy of the entire world of sentience and non-sentience. The first one: being attentive to the nature of interdependence of all creatures, both animate and inanimate, one should never slacken in one's efforts to preserve and conserve nature's energy. The second verse: as long as space remains, as long as sentient beings remain, they too remain to dispel the miseries of the world. With my profound thanks to the organizers who worked so tirelessly since the inception of the planning for this conference. My very dear friend, Emeritus Professor Dr. Osman Bakar, and Mr. Faisal Aziz, Brother Pek Jihen, Brother Ten Lin Hui, Brother Kesi Liu, Brother Benny, and Brother Said Jamaluddin Berang Mirin. I would like to also thank Mrs. Chetan Samtullah, as Secretary of His Holiness the Dalai Lama, who called me on phone to do this presentation. I must not miss to express my deep admiration to Mr. Jimbala, the coordinator of the Office of His Holiness the Dalai Lama, Southeast Asia, because of whose vision all these things happening in one way or the other, directly, indirectly. This is the heart of this person. And let us pray that COVID-19 subside from the world altogether so that all the beings can breathe the fresh air of compassion, joy, and greater meaning again. Thank you all for your kind listening.
Thank you very much, Venerable Geshe Dorji Damdul. That was a very eye-opening speech. You're right, Professor Datuk. This is another amazing personality among the Buddhism sitting beside His Holiness. So So, ladies and gentlemen, His Holiness the Dalai Lama is happy to give each of us his book entitled Ecology, Ethics and Interdependence, in which the conversation between him and the leading thinkers are held on climate change. The organizers will maybe contact you after the session. The session now continues with a question and answer. The questions can be posed to both Emeritus Professor Datuk Dr. Osman Bakar and Venerable Geshe Dorji Damdul, and we welcome them to answer. To all participants who have questions to ask, please be on standby mode. All right, I got the first question from Venerable Dr. Dhamapala Mahathero. Okay. Dr. Dhamapala. Dr. Dhamapala is a monastic advisor of Theravada Buddhist Council of Malaysia and abbot founder for the Brahmavihara Monastery, Malacca. Dr. Dhamapala, please unmute your mic.
Okay, so Venerable Geshe, I have a question here. There will be more refugees in the future from climate change, flood, war, etc. So one way of solving the refugee crisis is for the fortunate householders to house a refugee family each. One, humanity stronger together. So what teachings in Islam and Buddhism can help promote harmony of living together in the project of refugee rehoming? Thank you.
So we give the floor for Venerable first and then followed by Professor. Please, Venerable, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you for this question. This is the extremely important. Can you hear me? Thank you. This is an extremely important point, how to accommodate another refugee within your share space. I personally would say that the one is already there's a clash happening from distance, fights happening, let's say the displacing a group of people from one place to another. And then the another part is the where there's somebody is to bring somebody in your own house. So it should be very practical. Practicality that I am sharing with you is that so the moment, even in family, there's a clash happening between the husband, wife, parents and children. So where the family whole family agrees to accept somebody outside us. We don't know what that outside is like. One has own personal, the personal thinking can probably clash. But I would say that one possibility would be, as the UNO is doing, International Amnesty is doing, to make sure that they're really taking care.
The line seems to be breaking.
We have to see to the reality. Give shelter in some local places to put together. And can really resonate so well with each other.
Seems to be breaking. again. If it's still breaking, I think we can pass it over to Professor. Yeah. Seems that the line is breaking and Venerable Geshe is not with us.
Yes. Alwani. To the question, like all global problems of great magnitude, and I think refugees has become a global problem resulting from natural disasters and man-made disasters, all that. And of course, the question of ecological crisis. There are usually two approaches. One is the short term, and the other is the long term. As for the short term, I think which needs immediate response. And I think NGOs, non-governmental organizations of different regions and multi-religious organizations, they play their role. They have played their role. Maybe it's not enough, but they have played their role. I think with the new determination by the leaders of the civil society groups, more understanding on them, I think they will respond together to the natural disasters and so on. But for the longer term, programs, responses, I think I like the idea presented by His Holiness Pope Francis. I think one of our friends this morning mentioned his encyclopedia. Basically, that is on ecology. I like that. I quoted in my work, because it is time now, because of the interrelatedness of all problems, to show that human problems are related to each other. And not only that, related also to the ecological problem. So he introduced the word integral ecology. I think in the coming years, humanity is going to need more and more this idea of integral ecology. By integral ecology is meant that there is an interaction, which I mentioned in my introduction, and the interaction between the biophysical ecology and the human ecology. Human ecology is now beginning to be recognized more and more. Universities introduce programs on human ecology. Basically, we need to understand human ecology, including cultural and built environment, the kind of built environment we constructed, right? And for its connection with the natural or biophysical ecology. Now, but in other words, what I'm saying is this: the problem of these refugees cannot be treated as an isolated problem. Yeah, we must look at refugees from the broader perspective. What are the factors that contribute to the refugees, whether it is man-made or natural disasters? Needs an integrated action from governments, from civil society. Therefore, it needs a new kind of thinking, a new mindset. The old ways of looking at my country, your country, that's not going to work. The kind of being separated by political boundaries, by geographical boundaries, I think those days are going to, are no longer sufficient for us to treat a global issue. Therefore, world organizations, United Nations, UNESCO, and so on, and among the Muslims, they have the OIC and so on. Inclusivism, the inclusive attitude to solving our problems is very much necessary. So that is the longer term. So I think if we do both, we need both. We have to do both. Yeah, to address today, of course, is refugees, but who knows where they're going to be tomorrow? Now we have words like ecocide. You know, the word ecocide has been introduced. We must do something to prevent our nature from the ecocide. All right, and then also genocide, cultural genocide by the country inside. This genocide also has to be stopped. You know, so as I see it, humanity is in such a time that we have to work together. So we need the framework, the belief that enables us to address this. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the answer, Emeritus Professor. We have lost Venerable Geshe at the moment. We will continue later when he returns, but for the time being, let's move on to the second questioner. The second questioner is Dr. Muhammad Ismath Ramzi.
Yeah, thank you very much, Doctor, for giving the opportunity. My question is, my question to the representative of His Holiness, Reverend Prof. Geshe Dorji Damdul, and also to the Professor Datuk Osman Bakar. What is your opinion on religious leaders who keep silence when a group of people misuse their religious teaching and sentiment to exploit the innocence of people and the ecological system for their own benefits? Thank you.
Thank you for the question. So now Venerable Geshe is already here, joined us already. Maybe you can pass the question to him.
Okay. Okay. Can you hear me?
Yeah, clear. Thank you.
Thank you. So basically, I would say that amongst the religious leaders, there are two kinds. One, who are very open-minded plus courageous, who really think about the humanity. And the another group, the fanatics. So where the fanatics, we can't expect them to come to the rescue of the people who persecuted in the name of your own religion. So where the religious leaders who are more open-minded and who are very courageous, who really think of the religion for the humanity, not the humanity for your religion. These people, these leaders are like what Professor Osman Bagarji is doing. So where he's so, he embraces the other religious leaders and then see what can be done for the ecology, for the world. So these leaders, we must look for platforms. We must look for ways and means to bring these leaders together and then see how they can work to raise their voice against the people from their own religious sects who persecute the other groups in the name of religion. That is very important. Otherwise, we can't really expect or force the people who are fanatics. Sometimes, and His Holiness the Dalai Lama always says that the fanatics are everywhere. Terrorists are everywhere in any religion. So therefore, this is what we need to keep in mind. For example, like this conference is incredibly great, as Professor Osman ji rightly indicated. This is historic, where the people come together. And I would say that Brother Peck and Brother Kesidu, two of them, they brought Professor Osman here, and then we met, and then everything sparked from there. So this is where everyone, for example, the Dr. Muhammad Ismath, and you also, the doctor, you must also give hands in this meeting. with Brother Peg and Brother Kisidu, Brother Benny, and so forth, and that to bring Professor Osman and others together, and then we create a wave. So this is how we can expect help to curb the ills not of the religion, of the people who with the name of the religion persecute other people.
Thank you for the answer, Venerable Geshe. The questioner just now was Dr. Muhammad Ismath Ramzi, Senior Lecturer, Faculty of Education, and the representative of Center for Civilizational Dialogue, Our next question is the question from Ms. Yo Karpan, Chairman and Founding Partner, Candle Court Capital Partners, Commissioner of Tzu Chi Foundation, Malaysia. Please unmute your mic. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Geshe. I have a question on vegetarianism. Livestock farming is a key contributor to global warming and a reason for the fast disappearance of the green lungs of Mother Earth. So clearly our spiritual security is severely under threat. So from a religion perspective, why is it not compulsory for practitioners to adopt a plant-based diet to uphold the no-killing precept and coherently push for an environmentally friendly and sustainable plant-based diet? And is laboratory-grown meat acceptable in the practice of vegetarianism in not breaching the precept of no killing? Thank you.
No further questions. So I open the question to either to Emeritus Professor or Venerable Geshe.
I will respond, but let Venerable Geshe, Dorji, speak first, respond first.
All right, go ahead. The floor is yours.
Okay, thank you. This is a very serious matter, very serious question. Thank you so much. Ms. Yo Karpeng, thank you so much. In fact, I fully agree with you. This reminds me of when I was very young meaning I must be 36, and I was teaching students I was teaching in India, students from America, and during the break time, one girl student rushed to me and said, Geshe, I have a very, very, very important question. And it's so like she was the panicky. She said, I have a very, 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 very important question. I said, yes. Keep calm and ask me the question. And she said, are you vegetarian? I said, yes, I am. Then she was expecting that I was not veg. And she said, oh, then I have no question. I said, why? You, in the first place, you get so excited. There's a very urgent question coming in. Now you said you have no question. What's that? And then finally she gathered her, sanity, and then asked, okay, but it's not that all Buddhists are vegetarian. I said, that's true, not that all Buddhists are vegetarian. I said, why? The Buddha taught compassion. So non-veg means non-compassion. How these two are compatible? And I said, okay, that's good. I'm non-vegetarian, I'm vegetarian, so I am the right person to give the answer. If the non-veg gives the answer, it can be excused. Whereas I'm vegetarian, so I'm the right person. That you ask the question, the right person, and I'm the right person to give the answer. So basically, number one, let us not expect the world to be perfect. Number one. If you expect the world to be perfect, you will always be agitated. Because the world is not perfect. And your mind, what you think and what the world reflects, these two are contradictory. So you will always be agitated. If you are agitated, somebody who is compassionate, when that person is agitated, we are losing one compassionate person. So the compassionate person decreases number, then the evil increases. So therefore, how to maintain your compassion, how to maintain your composure is to know the reality. Don't feel agitated. Know the reality. The reality is that the world is not perfect. So now the compassionate people, what's the definition of compassion? Is to save the imperfect world towards the perfection. So if the compassionate person expects everybody to be perfect, what's the role of compassion? There's no role for compassion. Everybody's perfect. Why do we need compassion? So the compassion, by the very definition, is to make sure that somebody is being helped, which means a small toddler or a young child, age 5, 6, 7, eventually should be made a professor. Don't say that, oh, you have to make you professor, and then you just jump into the PhD program. No, this doesn't work. So this child has to be taken to the level of the professorship in a gradual step. So somebody who's consuming, say, like kg of meat per month, if you succeed out of love, not out of anger, anger will only destroy yourself and others. Only love conquers everything. With this love, the other person will receive, they will listen to you. The receptivity will be opened. So with this, if you encourage the person, okay, how about reducing from 10 kg to 9 kg? The person will say yes. If you say 10 kg to 0, the person says, who are you? So this is the skillfulness. So therefore, all the religious doctrines, for example, in Buddhism, there's a tremendous emphasis on skillfulness. We are expected to help the people from where they are to a higher level, which we can't expect to make it happen overnight. It has to be done in steps. So for that matter, the person who wants the change to happen, that person must not be irritated. That person must be calm. And then on that basis, skillfulness is required, and you must exude in ways of compassion, in ways of love and affection, that the person receives. The person becomes receptive to what you just say. And only this is the way by which you can expect the world to change from darkness to the light. Thank you.
Thank you, Venerable Geshe. Let's hear what Emeritus Professor would like to say.
Yes. Since this conference is about ecology, I will address your question from an ecological point of view. The ways of nature is diversity. The way of nature is diversity, although underlying that diversity is unicity. And if you go to the human level, the human world is also diversity. From the perspective of, from Islamic perspective, for example, the dietary laws of different religions differ from each other. So God has sent different laws to different people throughout human history. If you look at the dietary laws of the Jewish people, in the Old Testament, for example, it's far more strict than some other religions. So, in this diversity, while preserving ecology, by all means, those who are vegetarian stay with their vegetarian way of life. Those who with other dietary habits, by means, in the case of Islam, yes, meat is permissible, but only the meat of those animals which are vegetarians. Animals that are vegetarian, that's all. So I don't think that any of the dietary habits of the different religions is the cause of this ecological problem of the world. All right, I think the problem lies elsewhere. Nothing to do with the dietary habits of different people. So I think let our world be diverse as far as dietary habits are concerned. All right, and different regions has their own reasons, and rationale why they have those dietary habits. We respect those differences in our dietary habits, and I think the important thing is that we look what are really the main causes of our ecological problem. So that is my short answer to that question. Unity in diversity, including in dietary habits.
Thank you very much.
For years, I love vegetable food, vegetarian food.
Thank you very much for the answer from both Emeritus Professor and Venerable Geshe. I think because it's 6 minutes left for the session, I would like to have our final question for this session. And the question is from Insigne Muhammad Jamaluddin. He is the Chief Executive Officer of Allied Coordinating Committee of Islamic NGOs, Taksim. Please unmute your mic.
Thank you, Dr. Alwani. Venerable Geshe Dorji Damdul, Professor Emeritus of my teacher, Professor Osman Bakar, esteemed scholars, religious leaders, most respected activists and friends. Very quick question to our most esteemed scholars here. There are many revelations and edicts in the scripture emphasizing the need to value ecology and to promote sustainability. Islam, for example, promotes utmost respect for human lives and environment. Yeah? Animals also have their rights. The Prophet Muhammad says, conserve water even if you are by the river. Yeah, to that extent. Yeah? And we all know that science have improved life and sustainability by leaps and bounds, yeah, over the past 1 century. The challenge, however, in the question is poverty and unequal wealth distribution. 1% of the population owns half of the world's net asset on wealth. And 1.3 billion people in 107 developing countries are multi-dimensionally in abject poverty. Yeah? Mr. Elon Musk, for example, has now a net worth bigger than the whole Malaysian economy of 32 million people. So that's the disparity. Yeah? And so the question is, how does a poor be able to think, to learn, and be concerned about ecology and sustainability when his main concern is putting food on the table for his family? Thank you. Yeah.
Over to Emeritus Professor and then to Venerable Geshe. Please unmute your mic, Emeritus Professor.
Yes, okay. To the question by Brother Jamaluddin, I think the rich and the poor have their own different responsibilities. I mean, because every human being has a responsibility towards the natural world, the world of nature. So for the rich people, the wealthy people, the demands on that are more, much more than to be expected from the poor people. It's not a question of this is the task of the rich people only, but not the poor. We don't say the poor are exempted. No, precisely because the relationship between human beings and nature, that is a necessity. In other words, it is not an option. It is not an option for us by saying that I'm poor, so I can do anything I like towards the environment. If you are poor, according to your ability, yeah. The point is, we must have and integrated relationship with nature. Nature is not only a source of our physical needs, not only a source of our moral needs, because nature is also a source of moral lessons for us. And the nature, our relationship with nature is also spiritual. So I think the important thing now is to develop a kind of mind in which the physical, the emotional, the spiritual, the moral, define this together in an integrated way, define our relationship with nature. Of course, for example, the Quran, you know very well, schools the very rich, the wealthy people, especially the hypocrites. The hypocrites. Who are these hypocrites according to the Quran? Well, early in the second chapter of the Quran, when it is said to them, do not create mischief and corruption on earth. So these people to whom the Quran addressed, what is their reply? The reply is, we are peacemakers. We are just peacemakers. This is for development, all right? But actually, what they say, what they do, are contrary to what we mean by peace, what we mean by development in the real sense, in the real sense of the word. I think our problem precisely because there are those who think that they are developing the world in a way that's beneficial to all humanity. But that is not the case. We look at all the literature by scholars, by scientists, and so on. As far as concerned, scientists are on the side of religion. Religion and science are together in saying that human beings need a new lifestyle, needs a new way of life that does not make too big a demand that is beyond our natural world to take care of. I think that's my response.
Thank you very much for the response. Any word from you, Venerable Geshe?
Thank you. This is a very important question which resonates. One of the greatest issues which His Holiness is addressing is about the gap between the rich and poor. In this connection, what I would say is that His Holiness always talks about two things. One is the immediate solution and the long-term solution. And the immediate solution is like, the richer countries or the richer, the institutions. Instead of giving money, give skills. Give skills. If you give skills, give workshops to the people how to look for food, then that suffices. That one skill suffices giving food for the whole life. So this is Holiness considered as very important, and particularly, the more sensible NGOs, more sensible individuals, more sensible countries who are keen to work to bring bridge between the rich and the poor. So there His Holiness says that yes, just the immediate the action should be to give really food aids and so forth. But we have to also think of giving skills. This is number one. Then number two is, a little for a long term to promote awareness through this conference, through other conferences. People, like-minded people, they should come together. Okay, this is the issue there. How are we going to address this issue? For example, how Dr. Yourself, Dr. Muhammad Jamaluddinji, how you brought up this must be brought out to as many the platforms as possible, so that good people are always there. Oftentimes they don't get the information. They are not ignited. They don't know this. So, and they should be reminded. So when you bring these issues up, they will be activated. Okay, I should also have to do something. This will come. This is how the good people should spread the wave of this awareness. This is number two. Then the next one, which is so important, is that when I was in Finland, And I took for granted, in most of the places we talk about, say, the annual checkup. And checkup means that you have to go to a doctor, you give money to a doctor, then register, and then I asked, how do you go for medical checkup? Every annual checkup. And everybody raised their hands. And then I asked, how much do you give? They said that they were surprised. They were surprised to hear this question. How much you give? No, we don't have to give. We just sign up and then the checkup happens. I can't believe that. They could not believe my question. I could not believe the answer. So the point was that the system is so good. The system is so good that people pay their tax and the government actually gives the provision for all these benefits. So the governments and the leaders, corrupted leaders, can be very complicated. So how to get rid of the corrupted leaders? Not now. We have to the long-term benefit. The long-term solution is to look for the future generations. And how to build these future generations? They will not automatically become like a divine. We can't expect that. So they will also, if we don't go for a strategic planning, then they can follow the corrupted, the corrupted leaders. So we should make sure that their training is very different. So what is that? The only hope lies in the universal ethics, which is Holiness the Dalai Lama is always promoting that this awareness of the humanity, oneness of the humanity, must be inculcated in the minds of the youngsters, so that educating the heart must be made as a part of the modern education curriculum, and it must be adopted by the UNO. That all the countries, they adopt this as a part of the education system, that the youngsters, their mind will be trained in a way to see the world as one family rather than my pocket and your pocket. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Venerable Geshe, for the answer. The answer just now marks the closing of this inaugural session. I know that in the chat box, there are so many responses and so many questions, and really appreciate the participation of all the audience in the room. However, we have come to the end of this session, and please continue giving support and the active, giving us the active participation in all the sessions, in all the coming sessions. We are thinking of providing a space at the website for the remaining questions that have not been able to be brought up in the session, throughout the session. Well, I think I would like to apologize for that. And again, thank you very much for the pertinent questions from the participants and the very immaculate answers from both Venerable Geshe and Emeritus Professor Dr. Osman. Ladies and gentlemen, for the remaining of the announcements, I'm handing the session over to the MC, Mr. Adli Zakwan. Mr. Adli, the floor is yours. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Alwani, for moderating the session. And of course, much gratitude and thankfulness to His Holiness, the Venerable, for sharing, Venerable Geshe Dorji Damdul, to share your thoughts, and of course not to forget our own Professor Osman Bakar for connecting the mind and our hearts with regards to this issue. While now time shows it's already about 1:10 p.m. and as we are processing whatever that we have listened for the past few hours in the morning session, we will now like to take about 1 hour to process all this information, at the same time also taking a break for us to have lunch and also prayers and meditation. And our next session will be topic 2, the concept of ecology, sources from Quran and Buddhist scriptures. And the speakers will be Emeritus Professor Osman Bakar, Venerable Bhikkhuni Dr. Dhammananda from Thailand, which will be moderated by Encik Yusaimi Yusof. So for this 1 hour break, you may stay logged into the Zoom meeting, or if you choose to log out, you may later use the same Zoom link that was sent to your email to join the conference again. And with that, I wish that you have a great lunch and hope to see you all shortly at 2 p.m.
Ali,
thank you so much.
Photo, Ali, we take a photo, please.
Oh, there is a request to take photo. If that's the case, then I would like to request everyone to please switch on the video to allow us to take a group photo. One smile. Right, we're going to do the next page. Switch on your video, please. 3, 2, 1, smile. If you're not sure which page that you are in, just continue smiling. Thank you so much. And the next page, please. 3, 2, 1, smile. Can I check with the technical team? Is everything is okay? Another one. Okay, another last page. 3, 2, 1, smile. Okay, with that, the organizers thank you and all speakers and participants for joining us for the past few hours. We wish you to have a great lunch, great Zuhur prayer, great meditation, and I'll see you back at 2 p.m. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.